Hi everybody, this video is sponsored by a donation from Anonymous, and this is what they want you to know. I will try to make this concise as possible, but our story covers almost 40 years. I have always known there is something not right about my mother-in-law, but only in the past few years have I learned about narcissism, and really do think this is why she behaves like she does. So I will start with my husband's childhood story. He is one of 5 siblings. One of his siblings has profound learning disabilities, which means he needs almost everything done for him. His parents were, in my opinion, incredibly lazy and neglectful of their children. Neither parent worked as they were growing up, which meant there was never any money. Often no winter coats, birthday and Christmas presents, etc. Neither parent made any effort to provide for them and relied on state handouts and charitable donations from the local church. When the adult children have challenged their parents for never bringing in any money, they say it is because they both needed to be at home to raise the children, particularly the child with disabilities. The reality, however, was that 4 children were in his care and parents did nothing. They were parents to their parents. They literally raised themselves. The father would spend his life hiding away in his study pretending to be academic. He was a permanent student going from one course to another. And narcissist, that's another type of narcissist. The narcissist that is a permanent student, but they never actually accomplish anything. They like that academia world, that college world, where, they think they're some kind of fucking intellectual, but really they're just lazy bums taking a bunch of interpretive dance classes. The mother spends her days doing good deeds for the church. She is the type of person who would ostensibly do charitable things for others and for all to see, but completely neglect her own children. If the children didn't shop and cook, they didn't eat. The house was always unclean and both parents were hoarders. My husband shared a room with his disabled brother for as long as he can remember and would have to get up in the night and care for him, changing sheets, constantly putting him back in bed when he wandered. This was every night. He was hypervigilant in protecting his brother from his mother because she would lash out at the disabled child, the one that couldn't speak or fight back. So he would never wake his parents, but quietly try to get him back to his bed. As a child, my husband was severely sleep deprived. He also was not allowed out at the weekends because he would need to be around to care for his brother. His brother would go into care for a week every month, which is a respite for the family. But my mother-in-law would always use that time to give him jobs to do, often for other people in the church. He was never allowed to just be a child and do fun things. There is a running joke between my parents that my husband was born middle-aged. This is true, but it is no joke. He was forced to become a grown-up at a very young age. His parents nicknamed their collective children home help. They were actually child carers, not only to their disabled brother, to also their lazy parents. The children's lives went something like this. Mother's needs first, father's needs second, disabled siblings third, and playing the perfect Christian family fourth. I don't know, where in Christianity where in the Bible is it's all right to be lazy? I think Jesus was pretty anti-lazy, you ask me. His mother was obsessed with appearing to be perfect in front of the church community. And you know what this is about? I can tell you exactly what this is about. Based on their laziness and the way they treated everybody, what the church community about being perfect in front of the church was, they were looking for handouts and donations themselves, to support their own lazy lifestyle. So if they come out appearing to be holier than thou, but just down on their luck, then they could always keep their some sort of funds coming in and their sympathy and somehow support their fucked up lifestyle. She would use her children to boast about them to others. They were beyond perfect, but behind closed doors she was critical and was quick to make them feel guilty for being less than perfect. She was always comparing her children to everyone and expected them to be not only in competition, but exceeding everyone else's gifts and talents. They always had to be better in every way. I remember going to my brother-in-law's graduation ceremony. I said to my mother-in-law, "You must be very proud." To which she replied, "No, not really." I was too young to fully understand, but it was one of those odd moments I never forgot. They had a hyper-religious upbringing where they had to go to church even when ill. His mother had direct conversations with God, which was used to control her children. As the children grew, her visions and dreams became more bizarre and always revolved about keeping her children close, preventing them from leaving, applying for jobs, or meeting other people out of her church circle. Want to know why she didn't want them to get jobs and all that? Because if they got jobs and were bringing in income, they were afraid it was gonna affect their own state benefits. They're just lazy. This is the lazy bum narcissist who's found out how to use the church for sympathy and to put that mask on in order to garner, support and money. That's what was going on here. His mother was moody and prone to having vicious fights with their father. My husband said he got into the habit of coming home from school and looking into his mother's eyes before working out whether or not to be invisible. If she had the crazy look in her eye, he would take himself to his room and be silent. One thing he told me was that he was never allowed to go on school trips because there was not enough money. However, he was a twin, and sometimes he would stay at school and his sister would be allowed to go on the trip. His mother has always had favorite children, but the role would be passed and changed as how it suited her. My husband's older brother had the nickname Number One Son. He is not the firstborn. My husband went through a phase of being favored, and he was called Loyal Richard, name changed. This is what she did. She played the children off each other by overtly showing favoritism. She would also give the children the silent treatment if they had done something to upset her. An example of this was when my husband, as an older child, got on a bus and didn't see his mother. He walked past her and sat in the back. When they got off the same bus stop, his mother was angry with him for not sitting with her. He tried explaining he'd just not seen her. She stopped speaking to him for a week. Over the past 20 years, I have seen a lot of paranoid behavior from her, sulking and passive aggression. It has not been unusual over the course of our marriage for my husband to be excluded from family events, though he would not have a clue why or what he has done. He just waits it out, and eventually she starts speaking to him again. The strange thing is to me that it never bothered him. He simply used it as it was par for the course. She is a very, very religious woman and had a born-again conversion at a Billy Graham convention, and I honestly believe it sent her crazy. She is hyper-religious and very judgmental towards everyone, but she is clever and often disguises her disgust and contempt for others through concern. So my husband and his siblings were raised to believe that most people were deeply flawed and moral types, to be suspicious of everyone. He was only allowed friends that were handpicked from church, and she controlled anything he watched, read, or listened to ensure he was not corrupted in any way. And it wasn't about him being corrupted in a spiritual sense or a moral sense. She wanted to make sure she didn't meet any friends that would put right in his face how fucked up his living situation is. That's what this type of parental control is about. It isn't about protecting them. It isn't about protecting the child from anything. It's about protecting the narcissists themselves. The children basically had to behave perfectly at all times. They were also raised to look down on others whenever possible, which brought them difficulty with relationships. It is difficult to describe how toxic this religious home was, so I hope you understand. Well, I do. They were drip-fed, they were better, i.e. more Christian than any other family, and they had to prove that every time they stepped out the door, whilst at the same time being criticized harshly behind closed doors. She also had demonstrated schizoid-type behavior. For a long time, she believed the devil lived in the house next door in the form of a small Buddha figure on her neighbor's shelf. She harassed the neighbor repeatedly, asking her to destroy it. When she refused, requested an exorcism from the local church. Wow. She's just a control freak. I don't even think she really believes it. She likes the control she gets out of it and the bullying tactic. There are a few more stories like this, but you get the picture. So my story, I met my husband at church at the age of 19, and my in-laws actually liked me. In fact, they seemed to love me. I could do no wrong. They thought I was perfect in every way, and this was at a time that he was the golden child and favorite. Two of his other siblings had left home, so she put all her energies and affection in my husband. I couldn't believe my luck that his family not only accepted me, but thought so highly of me. I wonder why that is. I wonder what happened in your own life. The compliments did seem good, and I quickly began to do anything for them, making myself available for any help they needed. I thought they were eccentric, but a kind Christian family. I even went so far as to looking after their elderly neighbor during the night while she was ill. I did this twice a week until she passed away. I quickly became another family member of home help, which I did willingly because they had been so good to me. At the age of 22, we decided we wanted to get married. No sex before marriage, and therefore didn't want a long dating period. As soon as we announced our engagement, I was expecting them to be pleased, as they seemed to really like me, but quite the opposite. She turned on me literally overnight. Because all she wanted you for was another home health aide. That's it. That's it. And she obviously saw something in you that she thought she can control and keep under her thumb, but I guess she misjudged it. His mother was furious and did everything she could to stop us from getting married. Suddenly, I wasn't good enough. She seemed now to think I was a deeply flawed human being, not good enough, too stupid, too unattractive, lazy, etc., etc. She tried to convince my husband that I was only wanting his money. I was earning more than him. His youngest sister, I now know she suffers from borderline personality disorder, became hysterical and accused me of pulling her family apart. 20 years later, neither of them had forgiven me for marrying their son and brother. The wedding came after several postponements, and mother-in-law turned up dressed in black and refused to smile for the photographs and barely said a word to me. She gave me a list of 50 people I barely knew or have never met before to be invited. I did it out of respect for her and a hope she will learn to love me again. She played the lovely Christian role with the guests, but she just cold-shouldered me the whole day. A few days after the wedding, I went to visit her with some flowers and hoped to win her over and reassure her that I wanted to be friends. She was so angry with me and accused me of taking advantage of her. I had no idea what she was talking about until she said that the day I had exhausted her, I was to blame for her being ill. She has a history of faking illnesses for manipulation purposes. Now, a few days before the wedding, she had insisted that she wanted to contribute towards the catering. Rather than upset or offend her, I agreed to let her do whatever she wanted. After the wedding, she twisted the whole thing and told everyone I had taken advantage of her and put pressure on her to do this. The reality was I didn't really want her interfering, but she had insisted on helping and just let her do whatever. Suddenly, she had become the victim of me and our wedding. It made no sense. At that point, I knew she wasn't quite right, but was too young to know how to handle her bizarre accusations. Yeah, I mean, at 22, getting married, look, she just wanted you as home help, hired help, without being paid, and then that's it. And, again, this seems like another family dynamic where there's something sick going on inside behind closed doors that you don't know about. It's just too creepy. The problem from then on was mainly on my husband, who was still very codependent. I think that is the correct term. Within 6 months, we bought our first house, and he wanted to live across the road from his family so we can keep an eye on him. Basically, he was the father role. He was worried about who would be looking after his brother. There were 3 adults still living in the home, mom, dad, and BPD's sister-in-law. And yet, it was still my husband that visited every day to do shopping and endless do-it-yourself jobs that would always crop up. My sister-in-law appears to have been the main carer for her brother, but rather than being passive like my husband was, she became angry at my husband for abandoning them and blamed me for taking him away. So he's just another indentured servant to them. That's it, to all of them. They would never pay for a professional to do any of the maintenance and would expect my husband to do it all, even when he had been working all day. They would always ask him for money. They were always poor, always had unpaid bills. His mother hated paying for anything and would often try to get others to pay for things rather than buy them themselves. We later found out that they actually had thousands and thousands in the bank, even though they lived on benefits for most of their lives. The benefits agency realized she had too much money and threatened to stop their benefits. She was forced to spend her money. This is how we found out she had an excess of money all the time. She had been hoarding money but pleading poverty to either her children or the people in the church. She even managed to get her house extension paid for by a wealthy elderly lady who felt sorry for them. And I told you this earlier. This is why she was acting the way she was, in order to make money. And she gets over on taking advantage of other people. That's where it seems like the supply is coming from. This is like how Virginia was. Virginia loved to get money off of people. My father loved to take people's money, as he stole a house from an elderly woman. This is just narcissism tactics 101. And I hope your husband finally found the strength to go no contact from these people, because they're going to do it from beyond the grave. So I eventually tried to put a stop to this, because not only was he spending every spare moment looking after his family, who were capable of looking after themselves, he was also bringing home endless complaints about me. Once we were married, his mother seemed to think I had to be in her control. Who my friends were, where I socialized, what my job was, how I dressed and wore my makeup was all scrutinized and filtered back to me via my husband in the form of concern. This was a daily thing. I finally had enough, and she told my husband that I didn't have to see my best that I haven't had to see my best friend anymore, and that I shouldn't be allowed to complete my university education because it was a waste of money. Well, they sure would know about wasting money, other people's money, because she wanted that money for herself. Don't you get it? This is this is nothing more than a money hoarding narcissist. This is what it is. She wants everybody else's money. That's why she's so concerned about what everybody buys, what everybody has, because she looks at that and says, well, you bought that for yourself. That's your education. That could be going in my bank account. And besides, she's not naturally academic. I could no longer live so near her, nor have her interfere in our marriage. My husband and I would argue all the time, and it was always about things his mother was saying about me, and was so passive in putting up boundaries. As long as his mother was happy was his main priority. This is how he was raised. Don't upset mom. We put the house up for sale. I would get daily calls or visits to the house with vicious accusations. I was abusing my husband. I was trying to starve him. I was a control freak. I was an immoral woman. I was having affairs. I wasn't a true Christian. I had the devil on my shoulder. I came from a family of immoral women. She even accused me of being sexually deviant, etc. I promise you I was just an ordinary young woman. No history of anything remotely immoral or deviant. It was a very bizarre time, and when I was too young to know how to deal with it. She usually didn't say these things directly to my husband, but she would always call when she knew I was home alone. Well, yeah, they'll always corner you alone. No witnesses. Worse, she would get other family members to visit me, claiming she was worried because they would just accuse me of the most outrageous things. For instance, my husband got a new job, which was better hours and better money. Rather than congratulate him, she told a family member I was pushing my husband too hard because I was trying to make money off him. See, and that's just typical narcissistic projection, because that's what she would try to do. because everything is based around money with this woman under the veil of religion, under the veil of religious morality. But when you drill down to it and everything you're telling me, everything comes about money. It's about money. It's about money. It's about jealousy over money. And it's about, instead of you getting your own money, how do I get the money from you? They would visit me to express concern and would just leave me feeling confused and upset. I would find myself having to justify the most innocuous decisions. Even going on holiday would become major drama. Anywhere remotely nice, I was using my husband for his money. I always worked and paid my way, even when I was in education. Exactly. You're not allowed to spend on yourself. Don't you get it? They see you nothing more as little extensions of them, okay, to go out and be the indentured servant and then bring your earnings back to her. So once we moved further away from her, we found ourselves going on holiday in secret or doing house renovations without her knowing because the drama would be so exhausting. Even decorating a room would be interpreted and twisted as she is never happy. She was paranoid that I was taking advantage of him and was going to steal all his money. Because it wasn't his money in her eyes, it's her money. Whenever she came to our new house, she would be very rude about anything and everything. I didn't say anything to my husband because I knew it was his mother after all, but I hated it when she visited. Once I saw her walking up the road and pretended to be out. This is not the kind of person I usually am. She would be so negative and critical that I would feel so low and anxious after she visited. She made me feel worthless, and I began to question my own goodness. I began to feel like a bad person and guilty. Excuse me. Oh, God. Sorry about that. Once I saw her off walking up the road and pretend this is not the kind of person I usually am. She would be so negative and critical, I would feel so low and anxious after she visited. She would make me feel worthless, and I began to question my own goodness. I began to feel like a bad person and guilty for simply buying myself a new dress, for example. It may look bad to his family. Seems silly now, but this is how it got to me. She once shamed me at a family gathering for announcing she got another new dress. Goodness, she does spend on a lot of clothes. I don't, but she was trying to back up her argument to others that I had married my husband for his money. The new dress was bought by my mother for my birthday. To this day, I have lost interest in buying clothes as it makes me feel guilty. Yet this woman is just obsessed with money. Obsessed with money. She's obsessed with what you have, what you do, all relating to money because she wants it all to be hers and she can't let it go. When I was expecting my first child, I naively believed that she may be a healing process between us and that the pleasure of being a grandma would calm her down and we could bond. Things actually became considerably worse. Of course they did, because now that's another mouth to feed that you got to pay for, and that's less money from Mommy Dearest. At first she was delighted and began treating me well throughout my pregnancy. Right, because she can draw a narcissistic supply. Oh, I'm going to be a grandmother, I'm going to be a grandmother. But just like a narcissistic parent when they're pregnant loves the attention they get. As soon as that child is born, it's gone. I could see that she was excited about the new baby as we were, and I hoped that we could put things behind us. However, 6 months into our pregnancy, I was shocked and stunned when I realized via other people she had arranged for my BPD sister-in-law and now golden child to be our childminder. She hadn't even asked me. She went directly to her and arranged it without consulting me. And it'll take liberties with anything, including your own children. When I told her I wanted to be at home, at least for the early years, she was furious. This confirmed to her that I only married her son for his money. Well, why haven't you two ever worked? And she's all concerned, but they don't work. My husband never wanted me to go back to work straight away, and certainly didn't want his family looking after our baby. My mother-in-law was furious that I had defied her, and began spreading rumors around about me that I was a user and was planning on divorcing my husband as soon as the baby came. I was just in it for the money. We've actually been married 20 years despite her efforts to separate us. I have always contributed even when the babies were little. I could see she was going to be a nightmare grandma when she gave me a list of baby names she liked and those that she didn't like, as though it was her decision. It was like she considered my baby was hers. As you can guess, she hated the name we chose and sulked for months over it. The day I brought my baby home, my mother-in-law came to visit and told me straight away that I wasn't naturally maternal and that her daughter, BPT's sister-in-law, should be the one to look after my baby because she knows what to do and I don't. She was trying to undermine my confidence from day one. At this point, she was beginning to frighten me more than annoy me. From that day, this woman harassed me and criticized me daily, either in person or via the phone. She would turn up unannounced, criticize my parenting, humiliate me in front of guests. She had no idea what she was doing. She would turn up and just expect me to hand the baby over to her to take to her house. Her house is dirty, cluttered with rubbish and damp. My sister-in-law was showing signs of being erratic and crazy. I would always be trying to put her off or would insist on going with her. She was so pushy and insisted she was trying to help me by giving me time to myself, or she would get angry with me. She once threatened to contact a lawyer regarding visitation rights just because I said I didn't want her turning up and taking her from me. Grandparents have no visitation rights. And at some point, your husband needed to step up and realize this is a major problem. My husband was taking the baby to visit her every weekend. At the point, she would threaten me with lawyers. It wasn't even about have access to my daughter. It was about having ultimate control. It was very scary and was consistently expecting social services to turn up at the door. Though they never did, I think she stopped short of this because she knew we'd cut her out altogether. In truth, she was just trying to force her own way and have my BPD sister-in-law look after the baby. And that's not why she didn't call social services. They were in the social service system, so they probably didn't want to bring any added attention to themselves. I had become really scared of this woman. Most of the family were not speaking to me at this stage because they believed me to be abusive towards my husband, a bad mother, unchristian. We had left the church at this stage to get away from crazy mother-in-law. The rumor was I had the devil on my shoulder and wouldn't allow my husband to go to church. The truth, I had stopped going to church because I needed to get away from his family, but I also become disillusioned with it all. My husband went to another church secretly, but when he found out that his mother knew so many people there, he decided it was never going to work. It was his decision. I have no interest in pulling people away from their religion. I hope you believe me. When I became pregnant with my second child, my mother-in-law was not remotely interested. This was a good thing. Golden Child also just had a baby, and she was not interested in my daughter nor my new baby boy. She was only invested in Golden Child's baby, who later became the Golden Grandchild, who I guarantee probably went on state assistance. For most people, this would have been hurtful, but to us it was a huge relief, and things became easier for us the more she kept away. As the years went by, my son was not developing as he should and was eventually diagnosed with complex learning disabilities with autism. He is nonverbal and needs a lot of assistance. Although we coped well and quickly became involved in educating ourselves and our son's condition, our mother-in-law took the news very badly. Well, no, yeah, of course, no, she didn't. She saw it as an opportunity to garner sympathy from her church group. She was thrashing around for someone to blame. Obviously, the blame must be me, and she was accused me of harming him. She even began ringing my mother, demanding to know what I had done to cause it. This was so distressing in an already difficult time. My husband told my mother that the consultants had told us that is likely to be a genetic issue, and suggested it would be unwise to have any more children. His mother interpreted this as he was blaming her genetics and our son for being disabled. He was not doing this. She was twisting his words. He was just telling her that we had been told what we had been told. So she then started a smear campaign against me, how I caused my son to be disabled through poor parenting. This was a time my anxiety kicked in, and I really began to struggle. By the way, my children are almost grown now and are wonderful people, and I have a very close relationship with them both. My daughter is highly intelligent and has a bright future. My son has a lot of challenges, but he is always amazing me how he overcomes them and what a gentle, kind person he is despite his frustrations. I look at them now and I know I was a good parent, and I was never the person she made me out to be. My mother-in-law recently told my husband that she always thought she was to blame for her son's disabilities because of something she did at birth. I often wondered if she was projecting her own guilt on me. Of course she is. Of course she is. What do you think? My husband now has a huge row with his mother. My mother had a huge row with his mother last year. One of the few times he stood up to her. She turned up at my house when she knew I was alone and told me she thought I had been a wonderful mother and wife and sorry for everything she had done to hurt me. This was so odd as it contradicted everything she had always said about me. I could only imagine she was backpedaling because she thought she had finally gone too far with my husband. So my husband told me that I no longer have to have anything to do with his mother. I don't see her, I don't communicate with her or negotiate anything with her. We changed our home number and moved house further away. Good for you. She can only contact my husband via his mobile phone. She has been told not to come to the house and invited. As you can guess, my mother-in-law is acting as though she is the victim of me and I have overreacted. Sometimes she claims I am poisonous, and other times I hurt too easily. Life got a lot easier from going very low contact. Last year we got in touch with my husband's brother and wife, and we met and talked. We shared our stories, and I wasn't surprised to know that they had an identical history regarding mother-in-law's crazy behavior. She had also tried to cause trouble between the two brothers, playing them off each other, criticizing his wife's paternity and family. His brother and wife can no longer tolerate her. His twin sister visits very rarely, even though she lives just in the next town. She also tried to destroy her relationship. Golden Child BPT's sister-in-law is still the only one who visits regularly. None of the 6 grandchildren want to visit. As they get older, those visits have gone to just once or twice a year. My mother-in-law does not like us getting together with other members of the family, and now I can see why. She was terrified we would put all our stories together. Exactly. See, now you got it. And that's the pattern of the narcissist. They do what they do in order to protect the lie of their own abuse. That's what it is here. So what is the problem now that I have no contact? As she gets older, she is expecting my husband to do more and more around the house for her. She rings him frequently and asks him to do things that she is more than capable of doing herself, or his father for that matter. She told my husband our roles are changing. We looked after you when you were children, and now it's your turn to look after us. This is very delusional. I can only envision this getting worse. She has a history of playing on mysterious illnesses, and she also pleads poverty to get her children's attention. She is someone who changes her will whenever she is wound up about something. My husband knew early on that she was trying to use her will as bait, so asked her to leave his name off the will and give his share to his disabled brother. This was a genuine suggestion. Not only does this stop his mother from having any leverage over his life, it also means the money goes to a good cause. Rather than see her son being selfless, she became angry at him. So it occurred to me that the reason she was angry is because it signified losing control, don't you think? Exactly. It's all about control. And here's why she blew up so bad about over that. Because everything about your mother-in-law's control and that family's control has been about money. Has been about money, 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 money. So when your husband turned to her and basically said, fuck you, I don't need your money, give it to my disabled brother, that to her was basically your husband taking a knife and shoving it in her friggin' heart and twisting it and saying, I don't need your money. He took everything she was about and shoved it down her throat by rejecting that will himself. That's everything she based her whole life on, was manipulating people for money, worried about what you're spending money on, what you found out later on, what the other family members are spending money on. Money, 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 money. So for your husband to then turn around and reject it, it's crushed the whole narrative of a narcissistic life. I know you've read a lot of worse stories than mine, and I appreciate that you've managed to get out of this strange family. I also appreciate that you have a healthy relationship with my own family. But I was wondering what I should do to protect our marriage from the difficult situations that may follow with an elderly narcissist. I want to continue very low to no contact, but my husband will always feel obligated to her, and I understand this. But at the same time, she is always there in the background causing mischief. Does that make any sense? All the best to you, and thanks so much for reading. I've said this to a few other women who were married to into this type of situation. Your husband has to make a decision at some point, okay? That because this is only going to get worse. This is going to get worse and worse and worse. It doesn't get better as they get older. It gets worse. Your husband has no reason to feel obligated to her, but he's obviously having a hard time getting past this. I mean, with the history of the pattern of abuse you suffered for nearly 20 years around this woman, the history of the rest of the family. They made their bed or their dirty, hoarded out house. Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. He's done enough. You've done enough. You've endured enough abuse. At the end of the day with them, it's only going to come down to money anyway. She's always going to continue to change her tactic, change her angle, and badmouth you and bash you in order to regain control. And the closer the narcissist gets to death, the tighter they're going to grasp at control. This will only continue to get worse. Now, luckily for you, your children are past the age that she could do anything with social services or anything like that. So really, what would be the adverse effect of cutting them out of your life completely? What? Your husband was abused by them from childhood. He was forced to raise his disabled brother. The stories, what is he hanging on about? She ruined your wedding day. She ruins every event you ever had. She ruins your new home. She ruins you decorate. She ruins. And it's all based around money and self-control. So what is the point? And then you come to find out that they have been hoarding thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars away, only to be complaining about everybody else's money, trying to get money off of everybody else. That's what criminals do. That's what con men do. Con men don't get any sympathy. So why does the narcissist parent? Answer me that, which you can, and then answer, why am I still dealing with this person? Why am I still having any contact with this person? You wouldn't put up with it from some con man, so why does the narcissist get a pass? They don't. They don't. Thank you for your story and thank you for your contribution to the channel. I hope this helped out. Thank you everybody for watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And if you want your story read on the channel, you guys know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I will get it right out to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again shortly.